Okay, it's on.
Hello everyone. It's awesome to see so many of you joining us tonight. Welcome to Leadupteach on YouTube Live with myself, Laura Gilchrist, and my co-host, Heidi Veal. Tonight on Leadupteach, we're excited to welcome the amazing, inimitable Tony Sinanis and Joe Sanfelippo.
That's right.
And Joe might know what those words mean.
Maybe.
I didn't know what it is. Bring your own dictionary. Holy cow. Hang on a second. Push pause so I can look that word up. I don't know if I got to yell at you or not.
Tonight, not only are we excited to welcome Joe and Tony, and notice I flipped those so that they felt equal. We also want to give a shout out to Bostwick, who is hosting our Leadupteach Twitter chat on the topic of hacking leadership.
Cool. That's awesome.
Fantastic.
Hello, Elizabeth. Feel free to join us on the chat and listen in here simultaneously. And before we get started, Heidi, please take a moment and introduce yourself.
Yes, well, hi everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Leadupteach. My name is Heidi Veal, and I'm an assistant principal in North Texas at an early childhood school. And I love all things ed tech, early childhood literacy, just pushing the boundaries and finding new ways to solve problems. I, along with Liz and Laura, are so excited that we are here tonight to talk with Joe and Tony. We co-founded Leadupteach together, and I also co-founded and co-moderate ECE Chat every Tuesday night. So I'm passionate about leadership and really looking forward to tonight's topic on hacking leadership.
My name is Laura Gilchrist. I am an instructional coach in Kansas City. I spent 20 years with middle schoolers, and yes, I act like one, teaching science and social studies. Second year as instructional coach. I'm a really enthusiastic learner. Like I dive deep on, like I geek out on science, and you know, I like to tell puns, and I really bad puns, and I laugh at them. And I'm a birder. I can identify bird songs, and I even talk to birds. I'm just throwing that out there to give Tony and Joe something.
That's awesome.
You know, that's really not a choice on my part. Let's see, some of my buzzwords are ed camp, parent camp, maker ed, professional learning. And I want every student and teacher to believe in themselves as learners and leaders, and just self-identify as learners and leaders. So, wow, that's a little bit about me.
Okay, guys, so it's your turn to follow that. You got to one-up the birders. And we're super pumped to welcome you guys for our 14th episode of Leadupteach tonight. So go ahead and introduce yourself, guys, and y'all have to fight over who gets to go first.
All right. Well, my name is Joe Sanfelippo. I'm the superintendent in the Fall Creek School District, home of the Fall Creek Crickets. Go Crickets! Go Crickets. And I'm really excited to be here tonight. And I will tell you this. Tony and I will literally yell at each other for a half hour, but there is no better educator on the planet, and there is no better friend than this guy. So I'm going to preface that, and then I will crush him for 30 minutes, just so everybody is clear and understanding that I care deeply about the guy, but I am going to crush him.
Yeah. That's his way of saying I heart Tony. And,
it's not.
My name, my one way. It's like a bird that you see, but one that you want to shoot, not one that you want to like just admire. It's like one of those birds. You know those birds, Laura?
Yeah, I do actually.
I'm like the bird that he wants to shoot. No,
it's not true. Kind of true. Just put in captivity for a while.
Quiet captivity with a cover over.
That's right. Oh my gosh, could I dream of that day? Holy cow!
No, that happens to parrots who then just repeat the things that they hear. So you're gonna.
That's right. Well, all they be like awesomeness, 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 awesomeness. Not even a word. It's not a word.
What is brilliance that the other people say. Anyway, my name is Tony Sinanis, and I am currently an assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction in the Plain Edge School District. I'm wearing my Plain Edge gear tonight. Lead learner for 8 years before that, though, at Canning Egg Elementary, and honored to call Joe not only a mentor and a colleague and a co-author and collaborator, but very genuinely my best friend in life, and very excited to have this opportunity to engage with the two of you with him, as insane as he is.
All right, so that's enough nice stuff for the night. Let's get down to it.
Yeah, you know, I almost had goosebumps, and I was scared. I was scared. So it stopped. It plateaued. It didn't happen.
It's over. It's over.
So welcome, Joe and Tony. We also want to give a special welcome to our Leadupteach audience, both here on YouTube Live and on Twitter. We invite everyone to use our hashtag Leadupteach to connect and share out on social media, both during and after the interview.
So tonight on this exciting 14th episode of Leadupteach, we're going to hear about Joe and Tony's inspiring journey as influential educational leaders and why they were led to co-author their book, Hacking Leadership. I can't wait to hear about this.
All right, question 1. To get us started, share about the journey that led you to be the inspiring educators that you are today.
Well, if it's in reference to the book, I had a bunch of community service hours that I needed to fill. So he was assigned to me. And I figured that we'd just get something productive out of it. So I let him write his bio in there, and then I wrote the rest of the book.
You do notice that he's making references to like criminal things because the hate crime is going to lead him to need community service hours. But anyway, that's a whole other story. That's the next Leadupteach chat.
That's right. All right. So I think, I don't know if, I guess I kind of take a step back when anytime somebody says, like, you know, the inspirational component too, because I think we're just kind of doing our thing. And if people like that, that's awesome. And we hope that we can help everybody, but most importantly, we hope we can help, you know, our schools and the kids that we're involved in, you know, directly and kind of branch out after that, because I think we both have this like really, you know, authentic need and desire to make sure that the kids in our immediate space are doing and teachers are doing well and everything that we can to support them. So what really kind of came down to, it's funny that we end up here, like, God, I don't even know, Tony, is it like 4 years later, 3 years later? I don't even know. Is it 3?
It's 3 years this month. Yes, 3 years.
Okay,
this
so
month.
3 years. So we ended up at a like an ed camp in New Jersey together. Ed Camp, New Jersey, and I was going out there to visit some family, and Tony was going to go to Ed Camp, New Jersey, just, you know, from his place, and we were both headed out there, and at some point we had been talking on Twitter back and forth and kind of knew each other but didn't really. And then he said that he was doing some stuff with some branding things going on in his district, and he wanted to know if we should propose a session to do it at Camp New Jersey. And next thing you know, I mean, it was like a month later, we had a book ready to go. I mean, we had talked about a book with the power of branding. We had our own podcast set up, and so it just kind of gone from there. And so we went through that journey of the first book. And the second book, I think both copies of the second book are actually at Tony's place. I think he's the only two that bought to him.
We did write a second book, yes.
We did write a second book. It's like, yeah, anyway. So, you know, I don't know. It's like Star Wars Episode 2. Nobody really cared about it. But yeah, that's right.
Leading in the digital age.
So anyway, we're going to skip over that. And then so we got to this conversation about there's more to this than just telling the story of what's happening in your school. It's really about school culture, and it's really about the idea of we can do things differently. And not only, I think we got to that place, I think we were both like kind of jacked up because a lot of people will tell you what's wrong with education today, and even a lot of people who are trying to, you know, like trying to get people motivated to do stuff and move forward. They'll tell you like, this is why, you know, kids need to be able to do this and teachers need to be able to do this. Well, yeah, but you know, tell them how or help them in terms of getting to the point where they can. Yeah. And that's what hacking leadership really is. It's not just about like the concept of what's wrong, but here's how to do something to change it, like now, like that, not in like 3 years after you build this whole component and this structure and the strategic framework. It's like, get out of your office tomorrow and you can fix this right now. So that's kind of from my perspective, the journey that we've been on it in terms of where we've gone. But I don't know if Tony, you know, you kind of want to like add in that.
I think that's it. I mean, that's the reality. And ultimately, and Laura, you mentioned it. You mentioned the terms learners and leaders, right? And we want everyone in the spaces to be learners and leaders. And I think Joe and I very much in our daily work as leaders see the two as like almost interchangeable. Like we wouldn't be able to lead if we weren't able to learn, you know. And as learners, we as leaders, we put learning at the center. And I think that really, at the crux of it, became the impetus for the book. And we also really wanted to tackle that whole notion of the deficit mindset, which is something that sort of plagues education. And so everything in the book is really a positive framing of problems, of realities, of challenges, because all those things are opportunities to do something different and better for kids. And I think that's it. That's what it was about for us.
Something that jumps out of your book and what you just said was that, we get in that management mindset.
Yeah.
And, in classrooms and like with management, teachers get stuck on how do I manage the kids instead of thinking, how can I teach them? How can I set things up to teach them so that they can handle themselves? And, what can I do differently as a teacher to set the environment right? So I love that focus of yours.
We think that there's a really interesting there's a lot of really interesting conversations happening, but a lot of them happen or tend to revolve around management versus leadership. And I think we're wholeheartedly invested in the idea that you have to have both. Like you can go out and you can be the greatest inspirational leader possible. At the same time, if you're not getting the immediate needs met in terms of the day-to-day operations of the school, it really doesn't matter if you're out there. Otherwise, you're just a quote on a wall. And that doesn't really help anybody, at all. I
was recently talking to a group of educational leaders, and one of the things I threw out there, which we write about in the book, in essence, is, as a leader, if you're spending more time in your office than you are in classrooms and with kids and with teachers, then you're not doing your job. But as a good leader, you also recognize those moments you do need to be in your office to get certain things done so that people can learn and teach and kids can have the things that they need. So there is very much a balance. And I think that Joe and I trying to represent the realities, there are days that you are going to spend a little more time in your office, right? Or whatever, but it's about consciousness and about engaging in a different way than what is traditionally expected of a principal or a superintendent, that they're just sitting in an office in the ivory tower, right? But we're not. We're trying to engage with kids, with teachers, with families, and that's incredibly important. It informs our practice. So.
That's terrific. That leads me to a question that I've got about, just kind of some feedback. The two of you, honestly, have been huge inspirations for me in the way that your story about telling your school story, that if you don't do it, someone else will. And so I feel very responsible to tell the story about my students, the teachers at our school, and the amazing things that happen inside the four walls of our schools to make the walls, like glass so people can see in and out. And, people know the greatness that goes on at Lawson Early Childhood School and McKinney ISD. So tell me about your journey, because when you guys started doing that in your own schools and in your districts, it was not common practice. It was not something that was being touted or pushed by, the gurus out there. Some resistance. So tell us about that journey, because now you guys were pioneers who were inspiring me to do that in my own district.
Well, I'm going to just say this as someone who just started a new district. And having been in the same place for 8 years and now starting anew, I very much threw myself into telling the story, and I can honestly say that it was unsettling to a lot of people within the context of the schools. And it's kind of like, why is the assistant superintendent in my classroom? Only because the title is like, wait, you're not supposed to just come in here unless there's a problem or unless you're invited or you're formally observing me. And I just really wanted to get to see what the kids were doing and see what the teachers were doing, what they needed and how it was going. And it seemed like a prime opportunity to spotlight what was going on. So I can tell you, people do, and I'm sure Joe experienced it at first in Fall Creek, it can be unsettling because by nature, our profession is all about silos. My classroom is a silo, my school is a silo, my district is a silo. And so once you take it out of that, it's very unsettling. Not that anyone necessarily wants to be in a silo, but you identify with that. And so when that silo is gone, suddenly you're incredibly vulnerable, and almost, that transparency is like, oh, wow, people can see everything, good or bad, and I think that I've learned to kind of help people understand, we're celebrating the positive. That's a huge part of it. We're trying to change the narrative in education. That's a huge part of it. We don't want people to tell the story because the newspapers are not going to tell the story we want them to tell. The other thing that happens, though, is we break down the walls even between colleagues. I can see what my friend is doing next door. I'm not in her room all day, but now I can jump on Twitter and I can see, oh wow, look at what she did with that, with the smartboard, or check out what she did with an iPad, or check out how she did her readers workshop. And I think there's something incredibly powerful about the professional development that is a byproduct of this work when you do it with intentionality. So just some stuff to think about, I think, beyond just the narrative piece.
So I think for me, it was a little bit less, well, I just didn't want to get fired. So that's kind of what it came down to. And, we had 5 superintendents in 6 years before I got there. And I think the biggest component to, I think, and we say this often, that in the absence of knowledge, people tend to make up their own. So if people think they know what you do, then you have to be okay with that unless you tell them something different, because they're going to judge you. And you can talk about how bad it is, and you can talk about you don't want it to be that way. But that's reality, man. I mean, like, everything's different, and you got to figure out a way to get, like, you're not going to love everything in life. I don't love the fact that I pay $125 for a case of organic figs for my wife, but she loves organic figs, and that's what I'm paying for, right? That's going to happen. So I think you have to understand that there are different pieces when you move forward that it's not going to be awesome. It's just reality. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't moving my kids around if I was going to take a superintendent job, and superintendents turn over every 3 years in Wisconsin. So we wanted to stay. And so I think one of the things to take the thing about the districts, a lot of districts, and a lot of, from our perspective, is that there's a lot of really good things happening. And I think from what we want to do, we want to make sure that people know those things. But just as importantly for us is that we want people to know that we're out there in those spaces. So, when people are asking you what you do, or people are saying, what does he do? Then you can, your board can give them a list of, 1,200 tweets over the course of a year where you were in classrooms and you were connecting with kids. And so when you have to make those tough decisions, it's not like you're making them from a room that's disconnected. It's you're making them because you're in hallways, and you're in classrooms, and you're on playgrounds, and you're at games, and you're at, concerts, and you are at drama events. I mean, you're everywhere. And that's a huge component, because it makes you part of the group, which is like the only way to get people to move.
I have a sub question. What's the what's your favorite tool for professional learning, connecting teachers, and what's your favorite tool for engaging with parents and communicating with parents? Like, Facebook, Twitter, whatever else. What are them? Do you use Instagram? What do you use?
Instagram is probably my favorite, and I learned that from Joe, and mainly because it allows me to cross, post, and it goes to Facebook and Twitter right away. So I really appreciate that, working on one platform and telling our story in 30 seconds at a time, because that's about how long it takes, right, to generate the tweet. In terms of teachers and PD, I really still love my PLN on Twitter, and I think Joe would echo the words that we would not be the leaders who we are today if it weren't for the likes of, George Kouros and Amber Tiemann and Brad Gustafson and, Amy Fadegi. And I mean, the list can go on, and Jimmy Casas and Todd Whitaker. And the list can go on and on of the people who have informed just our perspective and our point of view, and have broadened it to a point where we see leadership in a whole different way than we did before. And not just leaders, right? Like teachers as well, who we connect with through our PLN, Pernille Rip or Josh Stuppenhurst, or again, that list can go on and on as well. There are some incredible people who are willing to generously share their gifts and their knowledge, and we soak it up and learn as much as we can.
You use a district hashtag like Joe does.
We have one now. We just started it. I'm very excited because I kind of made it up myself. Not because I made it up myself like randomly, but I did a little search, and we were trying to find something that no one else was using. So we are now using We Are Plain Edge, which is our district name, and the individual schools are doing like We Are, an abbreviation of their school, but We Are Plain Edge is our district hashtag.
I think that's one that some districts don't realize the power of a district hashtag.
Absolutely.
And Joe, what's your district hashtag? I don't think I've
we are the hashtag Go Crickets. Can we go back though? Because about 2.5 minutes ago, there was a section of this interview where Tony said, I learned something from Joe. And I really want to make sure that we highlight that that should be, if you're going to pull out little clips I want to make sure that that gets in there, because that doesn't happen very often. Even though he does, he just doesn't talk about it very often. So I just want to make sure that we got that out. So anyway, we have the Go Crickets hashtag, and we put it on everything, and we give it a lot of stuff away, and we just want to make sure people are telling the story with us. You know, and that's created this incredible amount of momentum that I didn't anticipate, honestly. To say that we now have cricket gear in all 50 states and pictures from all 50 states of people cheering us on, cheering our kids on. Last year, 2 years ago, we were in the state semifinal girls basketball championship game, and we got tweets from all over the country from people who have literally no affiliation with our school, but they're watching the game on the stream with their Go Cricket stuff on. And I thought that was the one that got me was Joe Mazza in the game on his computer, tweeting that out. He has no like rooting interest at all, but he's sitting there because he's connected to our school in some capacity. He's got his Go Cricket stuff, and that's awesome. So I mean, that's to me, the power is in the people, and the people, if they have momentum and if there's a push behind them, they're going to perform at a higher level. And if they know that people are watching that hashtag and they're putting stuff out there, they have more connections, first of all, but it also adds a level of authenticity to what they do, because nobody's tweeting out the lesson with the worksheet. Nobody. So it gives them another level of what they're doing. So if they really want to be recognized for the work that they're doing, they're going to change the work that they're doing, and they're going to throw it on Twitter because they know people are watching.
Yeah, and at WGEDD, Joe told a story. He showed videos of how, what do you call that thing that you put behind, with Go Crickets?
Oh yeah, it's just all it is. It's like a vinyl backdrop, but somebody else called it like a step and repeat or something like that. And it was Spike Cook. Spike called me. He's like, "Hey, where'd you get that step and repeat?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? I've never even heard of that before." So yeah, it's just a backdrop. It's funny that we have people that come to our school district now, and they like look at classrooms, but every group that has come through our school has said, "Take me to the Go Crickets backdrop."
I want to go.
Everyone.
I'm obsessed with that idea, and it's so cool. So he brings in, when they have new teachers, they get introduced there, and it looks like they're on TV. Like it's so.
Like a red carpet event.
Yeah, we have red carpet events too. Yeah,
right. You gotta hype it up.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, moving on to question 3. So we're going to talk culture. Hacking leadership is all about how leaders inspire learning cultures that are vibrant, collaborative communities that students, parents, and teachers love. From your perspective, why is building this type of culture imperative in education, and how can we do it?
So I'm going first this time because you're going to talk too long. It's ridiculous. I fell asleep 3 times during your last.
You haven't stopped talking all night. And
I don't know what you're talking about. I've had 3 5-hour energy drinks and 2 Diet Cokes just to get through this interview because you're off. You just keep talking. All you do is talk. It's ridiculous.
Stop.
We're not responsible for the bad behavior of our guests, so I just want to put that out there.
Gosh, jeez, what was the question? I'm kidding. Yeah. So it comes down to this: like, who wants to work in a place that sucks? Honestly, like that's not what we're here for. So the culture of the building. Let's get to a place where you want to be there. Like you want to be in that space. So the more that we celebrate the work happening in that space, the more people are going to want to be there. And for us, I think I'm gonna kind of let Tony talk about like the perspective just from an overall perspective. But I just think we want to develop a place that people want to go to, that they choose to go to, that they want to, like, they feel supported and challenged, but they don't wake up in the morning and go, I got to go back to.
I think what we know is that the culture of a school or a district is like its personality, and it really kind of dictates the way that people behave, the way that people interact. It shapes the norms and the traditions and the customs. And so you need to work on culture, and you need to be thinking about culture, and you need to realize that culture is about relationships, and relationships are nurtured through communication, right? And so in the book, we kind of came up with this acronym, and communication is a big part of it, and this notion of transparency. Because when you're transparent, when you communicate and you're transparent about what you're doing and why you're doing it, you build trust. And when there's trust, there is a positive sort of response to that, and that impacts culture. And the leader no matter what. And we learned this, from Todd Whitaker and beyond, and Michael Fullen talks about it, and Andrew Hargraves. The leader is the singular greatest influencer on culture. The principal sneezes, everyone catches a cold, as Todd Whitaker said. That's the reality. Other people impact culture for sure, and people shape it, but the person who has the greatest singular influence is the leader. And so that's something that Joe and I recognize. It's like potentially wielding a lot of power, which can be used incredibly negatively. And it's something that we're really conscious of, because we want to be the ones that wake up every morning and like, yes, I can't wait to go to work here. Not just the people who work with us, but we want to start the day like that too.
Is that one of your top? Is that one of the tops that you're on your list for improving, just for improving schools? Do you focus on culture? Deliberately?
One. Culture first, always.
Yes, first.
Absolutely.
Everything else second.
Absolutely. Culture first,
culture
always.
And strategy
no matter
for
what.
lunch.
Yes. So
Yes.
here's the thing that people don't really connect with on that piece. They're like, okay, so we want to improve the culture of a school. So let's sit down and have this come to Jesus meeting about what everybody's all about. And let's create this incredible mission statement that we can put on a wall and put at the bottom of our letterhead, if anybody's still using that, and send out to parents so they know where we're at and everything like that. I'm not going to slam all that stuff, but that does not build culture. What builds culture is that when somebody walks into your building and looks around, that they're acknowledged and directed every time, every single time, that they are acknowledged and they're directed. They're acknowledged for being there and they're directed to where they want to go. So we teach them to help them get to a place that they want to be. Because let's be completely honest about this. School was not an awesome place for everybody. Right? And so when they come back into school and the only time that they're there is for parent-teacher conferences and to pick up their kids, if they have to walk through that building, it's probably not Disneyland to them, right? So we want to make sure that when they walk in, they at least feel like they're valued and that they're supported in that walk, because it wasn't the best place for them. And the more that we can get to a spot where when somebody walks in, they feel like they're part of that school community, then we can move everybody forward. And that's how culture is shaped. And we talk about it all the time. Every interaction shapes your culture. And there's no interaction ever that's neutral. There's no such thing as a neutral interaction. You are either building or you're depleting culture. That's what you're doing.
That is a smoking gun right there. That's amazing.
I think a lot of people get stuck on culture. They think inside the building. And you're thinking about that, people coming in, which is a great point.
And I think that it like accelerates what's happening within the building. So if people are walking in and you've talked to your staff that when somebody walks in, they're acknowledged and directed. They need to feel like they're part of it. It totally changes the interactions between adults, because at any point, some other adult could be walking down the hallway, and we want to make sure that they're in the right place for that.
Yeah, it's all about, how can I help your day be better? How can I help you? Can you imagine if a parent adult enters the building and they're asked by even just more than one staff member, while they're there, just what kind of impression they leave the building with? That's tremendous.
How about having conversations with families, with parents, with kids? How does school feel for you, right? How does this experience resonate with you? Because we can sit and talk about culture all we want, and we can think we have the best culture in the world, but if it doesn't translate beyond the four walls of the building, there's a problem. And that whole fortress thing does not work anymore, because if you don't get out there, I don't know about where you all are in the country, but here in New York, there are lots of Facebook groups like Moms of blah, blah, blah school district. And they get out there and they're going to tell your story whether you want it to be out there or not. So you getting out there and getting ahead of that curve, and in doing that, you're building that positive culture with families, then that's going to most definitely be amplified and accelerate beyond your context, but under your control. And I don't mean manipulated control. I just mean because you're going to be out ahead of it. You're not going to wait for someone else to do it for you. So culture is critical beyond just the staff and the leadership. It's about our kids and our parents.
Yeah, and kid ownership of it too. Yeah, and you can do so many things to build that so they feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And something as little, honestly, like a Go Cricket literally a bracelet. So we're moving towards, instead of giving people like tags that they put on when they walk through the building, when you walk into the building, you're going to get a Go Cricket bracelet. Right? So then you walk through. So then you walk away with it too. Because what happens the minute that you walk out of that building, that you take that label off and you throw it away, and then you got to go back and get one. We treat you.
Why not have something that's going to last? How about chocolate covered chocolate? Have you ever done that?
No, not yet. We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, you really should.
I got somebody at Gustafson or somebody sent me like a sucker with one in it. I'm like, come on, man. That's disgusting.
Awesome.
Nasty.
He's making crayons now.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I saw that. That's fantastic.
Making crayons, yeah.
Right. Make it happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to move us towards your book, Hacking Leadership. I love the culture question, and I bet the topic will come back around and maybe some of the other questions. In your book, you identify 10 problems with school leadership and provide some dynamic, right now solutions. Could you maybe give our LeadUpteach audience just a taste of one of the problems and your hack for eliminating it?
I think we could do all of them.
We can go. We'll do one.
We can do one. Which one do you want to do, Joe?
You go do one, and I'll do one.
We're not going to agree.
Okay. All right, go.
Of course, we're not going to agree. I'm going to talk about the one that's had the most impact on our building, honestly, has been the passion projects for adults. And that, to me, is like the biggest issue. I think that from if you talk about the admin lens on, admin on one side of the table and teachers on the other side of the table, is I'm an administrator, so I have to evaluate what you do. So I'm going to come into your room a couple times a year and evaluate what you do. And then I'm going to tell you that you're good or bad at what you do based on 3 formal observations of 42 minutes each in a span of a time that you spend 1,100 hours in your classroom instructing. Mm-hmm. So that makes, like, I don't even understand the logic is ridiculous. So what we did in terms of, the teacher development was I took 6 teachers and I asked 6 teachers to build a program that was about them, that was really like what they wanted to do and how they wanted to grow. And they came up with this process, and it's amazing. And I had 2 from every building, the elementary, middle school, and high school. And they developed this process that was really a passion projects for adults. So we treat professional development in Fall Creek like Genius Hour. You pick a passion project, something that you want to do, get better at. That's your professional development for the year. And I give you 4 days throughout the course of the year that the only agenda item is lunch. That's it. So you have all of these days built into your schedule where you're identifying how you want to get better, what you want to get better at, who's going to help you along the way, and move it forward from there. And if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, John Carippo in California turned me on to Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey. It's fantastic, but it really takes you on a cyclical wheel of monomyth theory. And so doing that was really cool to really explain to our staff that you have to get out of your comfort zone. I'm only here to support your comfort zone. I'm not here to mandate what that is. Your A to B is going to look different, right? So everybody's A to B is different. My only deal is make sure that they get from A to B. And when you get to B, that's your new normal. That's the new A. You better get to B again. And that's how we value teachers in that process, because we let them own it from start to finish. And I have been astounded, absolutely astounded, by the ownership and the ability of our teaching staff to really do things that are completely different because they feel like they own the process from start to finish. And I have nothing to do with it. Nothing. Except for if they need a resource, I'm going to give it that. I'm going to give them the resource. I'm going to give them the time and go from there. So that's right. So Tony, you go.
I do agree with Joe that that's a pretty awesome hack, and I think it's a really empowering.
Thank you. Next question. Thanks for coming out today. We appreciate everybody.
I would say probably the one that resonated most with me was this idea of making schools more about kids than the adults, and trying to find ways to empower our kids. So I guess along the same lines of trying to empower our staff to lead their own learning, trying to give kids control over what's going on in schools, so giving them a voice, having committees that are set up for whether it's an interview committee to hire someone new or like a shared decision-making team where kids are actively part of that process and their voice is actively not only heard, but what they're talking about is enacted, and that we give them space to pursue their own interests, right? And so whether that's through a Genius Hour model or something a little different, makerspace, whatever, but really relinquishing some of that control. And I think that is a pretty significant shift in mindset. And it really changes the way our kids react to school when they feel like they are partners in the process, right? You know, short of maybe planning a lesson with a kid, but they're doing everything else. We looped kids into conversations about professional development. We had kids leading professional development sessions for our teachers. We had kids leading PTA meetings for our families where they were teaching them things, related to what they were learning about in the curriculum. And so, we talk about lead learners and leading the learning. Who better to do that than our kids? And so that was a chapter and a hack that really resonated with me.
And I think one of the biggest things that we wanted to make sure that people got out of this book was that it didn't come from some really, really high-end place that you couldn't attain.
Right.
Now, your school might not be ready to go passion projects for adults, but if you just start with ownership of the process, with teachers owning the process, and then listening to them, for goodness sakes, listen to them. They are the ones with the kids every day. So listen.
Yeah, agreed.
Do your teachers, Joe, do they present at the end of the year after their 4 days throughout the year with their passion projects?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this will be the first year that we embark on that. The last 2 years, so we did this, we calculated, this has been a very calculated process though. Like everybody wasn't ready to just go all in, full on adults, right? So the reflection portion of the process was still very traditional. It was a reflection. So the first year was like, fill out this reflection form and tell me how your year going. The second year it was, there's a reflection form here, but if you have a different way that you want to demonstrate your knowledge, come talk to me and we'll make sure that that's, that fits the rigor that we're looking for. Year 3, these are your 2 options. You have this reflection form, but then as long as you can demonstrate knowledge in what you do, that you're good to go. Year 4, this year, no reflection form, nothing. You have to demonstrate the knowledge in a different way. And that's when we're going to get into like a street fair kind of thing where you're going to present to colleagues and just have it. And I'd like to have it off site too at this point. Like you could just like go to a place, have some dinner, just relax, talk to people about what you did, just mingle. Yeah. Just make it like a party. And I should probably tell my wife that we're going to pay for that. But at some point we should, it's going to be fun.
All right, so let's say I'm a teacher in a school that, and I have this kind of innovative mindset that you guys are speaking of, but maybe it's not held at the top. So what tips can you give teachers that are kind of within that and they want to innovate, but they're coming up against some resistance?
I would tell you to move out of his district. He's still on the line.
I think that's a reality for a lot of people.
That's what a lot of teachers do.
I think that's a reality for a lot of teachers. I think it's a reality for a lot of leaders who want to be innovative or different. And by the way, innovation doesn't necessarily mean that you're using the latest technology or the latest trendy topic. Innovation could be that you're focusing on best practices and what literacy instruction looks like before you worry about whether or not you're integrating an iPad, right? And that very much be innovative because it's not something that's been focused on ever. And so I think when you're faced with resistance, the resistance is generally because of someone else's discomfort with what you're doing, right? And so engaging in a conversation with that person about what is making them feel unsettled, because typically it's not something you're doing per se, it's about the way they identify with it, right? And so it goes back to that whole almost like feedback piece, right? And identity is there's an identity trigger, the way that you identify yourself as an educator, right? When someone is doing something different than that, it's unsettling. And whether or not they're trying to loop you in or not, it's unsettling. And so how do you handle that? You handle that by having honest conversations. You handle that by being willing to share what you're doing. You handle that by recognizing that what you're doing is just one way to do it. It's not the right way or the better way, but it is about engaging, but challenging people to think about how they feel, like why they're feeling unsettled about what you're doing. So
you're going back to that which I love, which you said, don't just get upset.
No,
talk to them.
Talk about,
So
it's okay.
So Tony just gave you the real PC answer for this whole thing, which is awesome. The other real answer is there are a lot of people in administrative areas or in jobs that do not lack ego at all. We are 2 of them. We're not we don't lack ego, okay? But if you want us to move, there's got to be a way there. If you can show the administrator or the district administrator or the board or whoever you answer to, if you can show them how it's going to benefit them, how they're going to look better because of it, they're much more likely to let you go and move forward. When we talked to our board about doing this stuff, to start, I just told them, like, our job is to make you look good. That's it. Because we're sick of people coming to you and saying, you know what I heard, you know what I saw, if they're just talking to you, if they're just talking to the board about the time that the coach got, or the coach yelled at the kid, you're not moving your district forward. But you know what? Now they can say, people can come up to our board members and say, hey, I saw on Facebook that. Hey, I saw on Twitter that. They'll still complain about other stuff. But if you can give them the little bit, that little positivity to make sure things are going in the right direction, they're much better served to say yes to whatever it is that you want to do.
Yes. I unfortunately am going to have to bow out because I have to get a little child who does not want to go to bed.
I understand.
Sorry to apologize for that, ladies and Joe.
Okay, Tony.
No problem. We could use no problem.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you
For having me. It's been a pleasure. And Joe,
it's good to see you. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever do that again. Get out of here.
Hey, next time, Tony, we'll have him back on his own, Joe. That's no problem. So the fighting won't happen anymore.
Oh, why would we even do that? Gosh, my goodness. That's the only thing that we do well.
It's your shtick.
It really is. It kind of comes down to it. We try to help a couple of people and yell at each other. That's essentially our deal.
Oh,
but he's a fantastic guy to work with. And I think that all we wanted to do, honestly, with this book, and we have to thank Mark Barnes and Ruth and everybody at Hack
Mark's
Learning for all the work
amazing.
that they did. It's like he challenged our writing substantially, and it was, the pushback was real, and it was like and we had conversations like, man, I don't know if we know what he's looking for, and at the same time, it was really pushing us out of our comfort zone, which is exactly what we were asking other people to do. And who are we to say that we're not going to do it, but we're going to ask other people to do it? So we have tremendous amount of respect for Mark and Ruth and everybody that at Hack Learning for all the work that they did on the book.
Just awesome. So tell me something. A lot of people like to ask, what kind of advice would you give your past self, or, if you could go back and do something different? But yeah, I read a blog post recently that talked about giving advice to yourself. So kind of in that spirit, what advice would you give to your future self? Not Tony's future self, but you.
Well, if it's just Joe's future self, then I would say slow down. You got to slow down, man. You got to slow down. I don't know. It's one of those things that we just go at 1,000 miles an hour. And when you try to get to everything, you don't get to nearly as much. And I had a professor in my doctoral program. Her name is Nancy Blair, and she's in Milwaukee. She's fantastic. And she said to us, the greatest gift of service you can give to another human being is for the time that you're with them, they are the center of your universe. And I think I often don't. And so if I was going to give advice to my future self, and future self probably means Saturday when I get home to see my family, just slow down and really take it all in and that kind of thing. It's been a really fun ride with all this stuff. At the same time, we do it for a reason. We do it to help the people in our immediate vicinity. So let's make sure that we do that first.
All right. Share one challenge you have for our Lead Up teachers as we wrap up here.
Okay, so I'm going to challenge you to do a couple of things. Tony and I talked about this because we saw, the kind of the trajectory of the questions. So here's what we're going to challenge everybody to do.
Bring it on.
The first thing we're going to challenge you to do as administrators, actually, it doesn't matter. Anybody within the context of a school, the first thing, start your day for 5 straight days writing 2 letters of gratitude to somebody else in your space. That's it. That's not our idea. That actually came to us from Jeff Zoll in Deerfield, Illinois. He was a fantastic educator, but it totally changed our perspective of how we walk through hallways, right? Because now we're looking for things that our staff are doing that are exceptional that we want to celebrate with them. So 2 handwritten notes to start the day for 5 straight days. The second thing we're going to challenge you to do is at the end of every week for the next 3 weeks, we want everybody to make at least 3 positive calls home to parents. Specific and positive to parents of kids in your classroom or your school. And all it doesn't have to be more than 30 seconds to a minute, just very specific on something that you saw. And moving forward, like just that you're glad that you have that person in your space. Do not call a parent and tell them that they have a great kid. Don't do that because they already know that. Tell them why their kid is awesome, and that will totally change conversations that you have with their parent.
You got to give them specific.
Those are the challenges.
I love it.
Man, I love how specific your specific challenges are.
Well, hopefully those will help out.
Okay, yes.
I like.
We write that down.
So
that's right.
So
it'll totally change the trajectory. So it works out really well. And those are from both of us. We talked about that early.
Awesome.
So we knew we were going to come out with those.
I love that that's from Jeff Zool. I have a ton of respect for that gentleman. So I can hear him saying that too about the handwritten notes, the positive call
He
home.
might still be sleeping.
Imagine if we had Jeff in this conversation as well. It would be
We wouldn't let him talk. Nope. No, we wouldn't let him talk. You know.
We'll have him on by himself.
8:20. No, it's 8:20. He's asleep. He's been asleep after Wheel of Fortune for like 3 hours. Forget it. He's not up.
So rotten. All right, what's coming up?
As we wrap up, what's coming up in the near future for you or your good friend Tony?
Yeah. So, well, I'm in Austin right now at a suburban superintendent conference, which has been really, really good. George Gross was here today. I think the world of him. I think Innovator's Mindset is an incredible book. People should definitely read it. And then on Monday, I go to San Diego and I get to keynote a conference with Sir Ken Robinson. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
That's awesome.
Say what?
Yeah, so I go early. Yeah, I go at like 12 something, and he's at like 6 or something like that. So it's the second time we've done it. It's been cool. I did another one with him in April too, so that was kind of a cool deal. He's an unbelievable guy, man, an unbelievable guy. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again, and should be pretty fun.
Wow. Well, thank you
terrific.
so much for being here. You were inspirational and funny, and that's hard to pull off.
It's a hard combo.
Yes.
Well, I'm glad we finally got rid of Sinanis. My gosh, we get dropping hints for a half hour, and then he finally left. Holy cow.
Oh, God. Thank you also to Elizabeth Bostwick for hosting the Twitter chat, and to our amazing audience here on YouTube Live and on Twitter.
Absolutely. And hey, I just want to put this out there. If any of you out who are watching, or Joe or Tony, if he chooses to watch this, Leadupteach did put in a submission for ISTE, and we're just like all fingers crossed that our submission will get accepted. So if any of you have any polls out there, Joe, if you know anyone.
I don't. I wish.
We're not ashamed to ask. But we're excited.
You guys would do great. This would be a great forum. I mean, this is a great conversation, and we feel like just giving people this opportunity to speak. You ladies are exceptional in your work, so thank you so much for having us. We're honored and honestly humbled to be having this conversation. So thank you so much.
We're just really grateful to be part of the LeadUp chat family, and Liz Bostwick also. She's an amazing component of our threesome. We couldn't do it without her, that's for sure. And Laura, will you tell our audience about our next episode as we wrap up?
Sure. Episode 15 is November 17th with the one and only Lisa Dabbs, and we'll be talking about supporting new teachers. That'll be at 7:30 Central, 8:30 Eastern Time.
That's right. And between now and then, we encourage everyone to tweet out using the hashtag LeadUpTeach. Check out Hacking Leadership. Got to
It's
read
amazing.
that up.
It really is. Seriously.
Thank you, guys. Thank
And
you so much. We're happy with it.
Thank you, Joe. Absolutely. Best wishes to you and your travels, Joe, and also Tony. We appreciate you for joining us tonight too. So good night, lead on and lead up.
Night.
Night, everybody.
Bye-bye.